Did you know at least 76 employees said that they experience burnout at least sometimes? And then 28% of employees said that they experience burnout at least very often or always? If you're going into project management, especially if you're going to be a new project manager, just know going into this, in the beginning, you're going to start feeling the weight of the deadlines or the meetings or any deliverables or recurring deliverables start to pile up as you start to move along. Now, hopefully when you're starting out, all of this isn't going to be piled onto you day one or even your first week, but it's something that will eventually happen over, the first at least 60 to 90 days. But I'm here to tell you that once you actually start to get acclimated into your role, yes, there is a good chance that you can start to feel overwhelmed. Hi, I'm Jessica, and I help ambitious professionals transition into project management with confidence. And so in this video, I'm going to tackle a very important topic, which is burnout. So in this video, I'm going to talk to you about the signs of burnout so that you know what to look for and the strategies that you can use to overcome it if burnout is something that you do happen to experience so that you can build and sustain a successful career in project management. All right, so in this video, we're going to talk about the signs that you need to look out for so that you can identify burnout early on, but we're also going to talk about the strategies that you can use to overcome it if you do happen to experience burnout. My goal is to help you build a sustainable and successful career in project management. All right, so believe it or not, burnout doesn't just show up out of nowhere. Usually it starts small, but if it's left unchecked or not addressed, that's when it starts to spiral into something bigger. So here are the signs that you need to look out for. All right, so the first sign, you may start to feel physically tired. So for example, maybe you get to the point where you feel like no amount of sleep is enough. Maybe you're feeling a sense of, headaches or muscle tension, or even just that general sense of low energy. And then the next sign is maybe you're starting to just feel anxious about tasks that once used to excite you or just not bother you at all. Or maybe you're starting to be more irritable and frustrated when it comes to certain things at work. So maybe that looks like you're starting to snap at your team more, or maybe even the smallest tasks are starting to just overwhelm you and stress you out. And so the third sign is more behavioral. So this is when you start to feel like your productivity is starting to slow down, or maybe you're starting to procrastinate more. And then worst of all, maybe you're starting to just lose that motivation or that passion that you once had once you started to come into the career, right? You're no longer even enjoying the work that you're doing. Now, if any of this sounds like you, or if it sounds like something that you're experiencing, then maybe it's time to start reassessing your workload. Okay, so now let's shift a little bit and just talk about why burnout even happens. Okay, so I can understand when people come into new jobs, or maybe they're just very ambitious, they feel inclined to take on additional roles and responsibilities, right? Because you're ultimately trying to prove yourself, you're trying to show your value, you may be trying to climb the corporate ladder, whatever that may be. Sometimes we feel the need to volunteer for all of these different things, not realizing how much that's adding to our plate. And then before you know it, you're drowning in all of these different responsibilities, and then now you're starting to get burnt out. And then the second reason that this can happen is that sometimes we just lack boundaries, right? We're not really good at setting boundaries at work. If you're one of those people that tends to check emails at midnight, or you tend to say yes to every single meeting that comes your way, and now you're in back-to-back meetings every single day, then just know you're setting yourself up for burnout. And then the third reason as to why this probably happens is all about time management. Just know trying to do every single thing yourself and not delegating anything to your team members is an early indicator that you will probably end up being burnt out. You have to remember that being in a leadership position doesn't mean that you have to do everything all by yourself. It's important to know how to guide your team effectively and know how to delegate responsibilities and tasks so that everyone is being able to contribute and manage the workload, and no one feels like all of the responsibilities are piled onto them. All right, so we've talked about the signs, we've talked about why this happens. Now let's talk about solutions. You need to know how to manage your workload and protect your mental health. All right, so the first strategy that I recommend is to use time blocking. So Try scheduling your day and focus time blocks for various tasks that you have to do. This is essentially designed to help you to avoid chaos and dedicate time to what's important so that you can get things done and not have to continuously multitask. So for example, for me, I reserve the mornings for anything that's the most important thing that I need to get done that day. Whatever that may be, I'm more productive in the mornings. It's also a little quieter in the mornings because there's typically less meetings in the morning. So for me, I time block the morning, so whatever needs to get done, that's the most important thing, it's getting done in the morning. So whatever your company uses, whether it's Microsoft Outlook or your Google Calendar, whatever it is, start to time block and block off an hour or 2 hours to whatever's most important that you need to get done on certain days. And when you time block, that means there's no interruptions, right? There's no meetings, there's no phone calls, whatever that may be that could distract you and potentially get you to the point where you feel overwhelmed. Protect that time for yourself so that you can get things done. And then the next strategy is all about delegation. Just know that delegation is a skill and it's not a weakness. If you come to realize that you have a lot of tasks on your plate or recurring tasks that you need to get done, what you can do is start to identify the tasks that you feel like you can delegate to someone else. And I know for some people this may be difficult because for some people, right, we're doers. We tend to just kind of take things and run with it. We don't really do well with trusting other people with certain tasks because we feel like it may not get done to the level at which we can do that task. But in my opinion, it's very important to understand the strengths of your team members or the people that you work with so that you can effectively delegate those tasks to other people so that you can manage your own workload. You cannot do everything because you're going to push yourself into exhaustion. So instead of micromanaging, right, you have to get to the point where you trust your team to do the tasks that they have the strengths to do. When you start to get good at delegation, this is going to allow you to free up time so that you as the project manager can focus on the bigger picture or the more critical items that are on your plate. And then the third strategy is all about setting boundaries. You have to get to the point where you are comfortable letting people know your working hours early, right? I'm available at this time. At this time, I won't be available. If there's an emergency, you can reach out to me, using this method. Otherwise, I'll be available the next day at this time, right? Those are boundaries that you can set early on and let your team know. And then also, as the project manager, don't be afraid to let people know that you're at capacity. I have been in roles where I've managed multiple projects only to have meetings with, senior stakeholders or my direct supervisors, and they'll try to add even more projects onto my plate. When you're early on as a project manager, it can be a little intimidating to have a conversation with your direct supervisor or any senior stakeholders and let them know that you're at capacity. You're already overwhelmed with the work that's already on your plate and you can't take on an additional project. Now, typically when things like this happen, this conversation needs to then lead into a discussion around priorities and which projects are a immediate priority and which ones can be tabled for later on, right? Now, this is something that I can go into in another video, but essentially you have to get comfortable letting people know your availabilities and your capacity, right? Because if you just say yes to everything, you're going to get burnt out very quickly. So make sure that you get comfortable and in the routine of setting up automated emails, right? Just to let people know that you're not available. And then also get comfortable with letting people know your capacity. Or you can even set up time blocks on your calendar so that people know when you're available and when you're not available, right? You can really set up that dedicated focus time. So when you start to combine all of these strategies that I've talked about, right, you're going to realize something amazing start to happen. You're not only going to protect yourself from burnout, but you're going to start to realize that you're leading your projects more effectively now. You have more time on your hands. You've delegated the smaller tasks to other individuals that can completely and fully handle them. And you're not micromanaging, right? You're really allowing your brain to focus on what's most important in your role. So when you're really starting to build this sustainability, this is what sustainability looks like once you actually start to put it in action. You're going to start to be able to prioritize your tasks with confidence. And then your team is going to start to thrive because now you're setting the tone for balance and productivity. And then in the end, you're going to start to enjoy your work again because now it's more manageable and it's not stressing you out. But just remember, burnout doesn't just affect you, it also affects those around you. it can essentially affect your team. It can affect your project outcomes. So when you get to the point where you start managing your workload effectively, you're going to set everyone else up for success as well. So just remember, burnout is very common, but it is inevitable if you use the right strategies. So if you just try to recognize these signs early on and then use these strategies to overcome the burnout, you'll be able to build a successful career in project management. So if this video helped you, make sure that you give it a thumbs up and then let me know in the comments below if burnout is something that you've experienced or just something that you may be anxious about or worried about getting into project management. Either way, that's all for this video and I will see you guys in the next one.